Hi, Yvette.
Hey Joe.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm home in Seattle. About to go on tour tomorrow, but I'm happy to be home for one last day. Where are you?
Same.
Yeah. Are you leaving tomorrow too?
Day after tomorrow, basically.
Yeah. And you're home now?
Mm-hmm.
Where is home?
Home is San Jose, California. I'll be
Ooh.
heading towards you. Portland is
Oh.
our first date. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Did you grow up in San Jose?
Yeah, born and raised.
What'd you get up to in your growing up there in San Jose? I grew up, part of my childhood was growing up in Pleasanton. I
Ah,
used to
Pleasanton.
skateboard in San Jose a lot.
Ah, cool. There's a bunch of parks here.
Yeah.
Um, I think Red Park is the one that a lot of people go to.
Hmm.
But I just, went to school, born and raised. I grew up doing classical music, so
Oh, you did.
yeah, I was like in a bunch of orchestras and just a bunch of extracurriculars. Then I moved to LA for college for a little bit, but I didn't
Mm.
really stay there long.
So I think I read that you have a musical family. You grew up in a musical family. Is that right?
Hmm.
How was?
Um,
What's that? What's that mean for you?
I guess I was forced to play music when I was a kid. I didn't really want to. I think I wanted to like I don't know play basketball or something, kind of a
Mm.
jock move. But my mom and my dad were like really into classical music, and so I started on piano when I was four, seven, violin when I was seven.
Mm.
It was a lot of pressure, and I just grew up around classical music. Everyone in my family kind of does it. My cousin is an amazing concert pianist, and she works at UNC teaching piano now.
Oh,
But I definitely took a different path than classical music. But it was good because I started out hating it, but then after going through a lot with it, I discovered guitar, taught myself, and it totally restored my relationship, not only with music but I think with myself. So
oh, really?
yeah,
Did you ever get to play basketball?
I did do a basketball camp. I grew up kind of recess.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
bell rings. Just grab the ball, immediately run to the court. I was really into it. I always wanted to go to basketball camp, but I was never allowed to because it would mess up my hands and I couldn't
Oh,
like compete in competitions and stuff. So
right.
yeah.
I used to play basketball and I stopped playing so I wouldn't mess up my hands.
Oh no way! Yeah, see,
Yeah,
it's if you I don't know if you still skate, but that stuff,
I don't anymore. I
yeah,
can't.
that is harrowing. Some of the injuries.
Well, I want to congratulate you on this new record, Catharsis. It's great. It's quite the journey. I listened to it in entirety right before we got on here. Again, I was listening to it a lot over the weekend, but it's a great record, and it's a real journey of songwriting and uh, playing and performance. Um, and I want to talk a little bit about the process of making this. But first, I want to talk a little bit about your influences and as as far as I guess rock or progressive rock or whatever we want to call it, um, because it really sparked my memory of a couple eras in my life where I was listening to like punk rock music and like metal and stuff like that. But along came bands that were a little more savvy and technical, and I really loved it. It was really refreshing to me.
Hmm.
And it was in the Bay Area. There was bands like a band called Victims Family, uh, and almost like closer to Primus, stuff like that around
Mm.
that era, the beginning. And it just, I loved it when I first heard it. And then kind of later in the 90s, there was a few bands like Trans Am and Bitch Magnet. What a terrible name for a band, but a great band. And Don Caballero.
I love Don Cab. That's who I
Okay,
grew up with.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it just like as soon as I heard, I was listening to your record, and I was like, what is like? There was something kind of special in my memory about it, and it just makes me wonder what is your influence, because you're it's extraordinary. There's not a million people making music like Covet.
Oh, thank you. That's really sweet. I think you're spot on in identifying some of that. The some of the bands that you listed, mainly Don Cab. I grew up listening to. Like,
Okay.
I remember in I loved everything growing up. I think I was adverse to classical because I was like pushed into it, but
Sure.
nowadays I have a lot of respect and admiration for it. It is timeless, truly.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, I grew up listening to a lot of. I discovered Minus the Bear when I was in middle school. I was like, this
Mm-hmm.
is really cool and like different than um, Linkin Park, what everyone else
Yeah.
was listening
Right.
to at the time. I was like,
Yeah.
this is neat. Uh, and then I really like the effect, like the pedal sounds and like the effects that were on the Menos El Oso record.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I listened to a bunch of like post rock growing up, like Explosions in the Sky, Godspeed Black
Oh,
Emperor,
okay. Yeah.
Joy Wants Eternity. Like there's the post rock boom.
Right.
I was super into because it did remind me of my classical upbringing, because a lot of post rock is like, you know, it's like sonic storytelling, and it's emotional, it's dynamic, there's movements, there's a motif that
Yeah.
like repeats. So it was really familiar territory for me, and I feel like that was my segue gateway into like rock. Grew up listening to American football, Joan of Arc, Captain
Right.
Jazz, like all of that.
Okay.
As uh I a bunch of bands like Braid and Mineral I was into as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
Uh and yeah, that kind of just informed. I discovered alternate tunings thanks to American football and a band called Toe. Um, so I started kind of teaching myself how to play like that, and then I was like, you know what, I could just write music in this tuning. So I started like kind of noodling around, and that's how I got into my current style. Yeah, I listened to. I'm trying to think of like heavier stuff I was into, like Envy at the time. It was like
Mm-hmm.
kind of more post-hardcore stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, just a whole plethora of
All
different
right.
things.
Well, it makes sense that sparked all those memories for me then.
Yeah.
And with this new record, Catharsis, it to me it seems a little bit lighter than your past records. I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong. Does it? How does this record feel different to you?
um, I would say, well, that's I always love hearing that perspective, because I think as the writer of the music and the creator of it, I tend to feel like I get numb to the overall effect. Like I have no idea what it would make someone feel,
Mm-hmm.
because I've just sat with it a long time. So I think definitely for me, it's uh, half of it. It's supposed to be half like really light and playful
Yeah.
and kind of like uplifting and
Mm-hmm.
happy, and then half of it was supposed to sound like kind of more ambivalent and like dark, like Smolder and like Coronal. Those are like
Sure.
heavy, but I don't
Okay.
want it to sound like negative. It's supposed to just be like kind of this heavy feeling. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I mean, it's it's probably more oriented towards Firebird, but it just that song is like it's almost hopeful, and back to what
Hmm.
you were saying, sonic storytelling. A lot of your music is instrumental, but you're like a master of sonic storytelling, is and Firebird is like the perfect example of that. That is a really wonderful journey, and
Thank
it's
you.
joyful to me,
Yeah.
and I watched the video along with it. It's a good experience also.
Thanks.
Um, but yeah, it's I don't want to say you don't need lyrics, but you don't necessarily need lyrics.
Thank you. You know, I was talking to someone about the beauty of instrumental music.
Yeah.
Um, and lyrics, I admire lyricists. To me, the reason why I shy away from it is because I find it daunting. It's like very
Hmm.
vulnerable, and it's easy to sound like you're trying too hard.
Yeah.
easy
Yeah.
to sound reductive as well, and like just kind of like you're just following a formula. It's just too much to think about.
Yeah.
I'm like an introvert. I don't really like want to tell everyone about my shit, you know. So
Yeah.
I feel like what the beauty of instrumental music is that I think it can be more empathetic sometimes. Like
Mm.
you would think that like
Oh yeah.
having lyrics would be like, oh yeah, this song gets me, but I think sometimes lyrical music tells you how to feel. It says like this is a song about a breakup. This is a song about like capitalism. This is a song like, you know, and you exist within the structure of what like the song is literally semantically dictating to you.
Sure.
Whereas I think instrumental music, it doesn't tell you how to feel, it listens to you. So it's like kind of a reflection of what you're feeling inside, and then like it lets sound and melody and tone and texture and dynamics kind of just like amplify what you're feeling, and it has the power to change how you're feeling too. Like when I wrote Firebird, I wanted, a lot of times I write happy music when I'm feeling really sad,
Oh, okay.
because I feel like it changes my mood, and like before you know it, I'm like sitting there like dancing. So it kind of just uplifts me. I feel the same way looking at abstract art. I think initially I studied art in college. That was my
Mm-hmm.
bread and butter. You know, a lot of figurative art, it's like it's a still life. It's very well crafted, and it's like, you know, it can make you feel a certain type of way. But abstract art is like, it makes you kind of like have to do a little more work, and
Yeah.
you have to kind of like confront maybe like how you're feeling and look within without sounding too cheesy. But I
No,
feel
no.
like instrumental music kind of does that for me as well.
Yeah, that's beautifully put. It's and it makes me think that there's a enough of an ambiguous space when you're experiencing an instrumental song, much like classical music, that and I'm big on parameters for a lot of things in expression, but it alleviates the parameters and just allows you to uh, feel and experience whatever you want because it's not words.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, with that, I'd like to play Firebird. Is that cool with you?
Totally.
I'm going to say Firebird again because I said it like a baby. Firebird. All right, here we go. Yes, happiness.
Yeah.
That's I confirmed it. It makes me that song makes me happy.
I'm glad. That was the
Yeah.
overall goal.
So I know that you work. Have you consistently worked with two other band members with Covet?
Yeah, I the older stuff, I've always like written everything. I just bring the songs to my bandmates, and then we kind of like, sometimes I have very specific things I want. Sometimes it's more like, we all work together to try to figure out the best drum part and bass part. I recently went through a lineup change through this record. Actually, it's
Hmm.
funny. It is a light record sonically in some ways, but oh man, it was. I survived. Yeah, it was just, I can't catch a break, man. Like,
Oh.
I started. I halfway through the recording process, basically I decided that I needed to change everything. So um I redid all the bass.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a friend, John Button, um track it all, and it was a great process. Actually, I think working with him was actually one of the really uplifting parts of it all. And I ended up redoing a lot of my guitar, because I don't know if you ever feel this, but when you record, I feel like if I haven't toured on it, if I haven't played the songs a lot, I don't necessarily even know how I want it to sound yet. And once you toured on a body of music, like the way you play it changes, you make different creative decisions, and you kind of feel how it operates within a space. And
Yeah.
after doing a tour on it, I was like, I want to redo the guitar. So I like redid a bunch of
Yeah.
the guitar.
Yeah. I think in a perfect world, at least for me, if you're going to put out a record in 8 months, try to play those songs on tour. I think that a lot of those songs will go away. You'll be like, those we don't like those songs anymore. But you'll come up with better versions of the songs that you keep, and then you go record them. I think, but it just never seems to work out that way.
Yeah, it's. I wish, ideally, I wish people had like so long to just sit on a body of work and
Yeah,
make those decisions. But unfortunately, you know how this record worked was the recording time was booked before I even had the record really
it
written.
was.
So yeah, in some ways it's good because it lights
Yeah,
a fire under my ass, and I'm just like, okay, I gotta crack down and see what happens, and it feels good. Like I'm like, yeah, I
yeah.
only had a month and I did it, woo! But I don't think it makes for the best creative decisions. I think
Mm-hmm.
having time with
Right.
something and letting it marinate, that's the
Yeah.
best way.
And what was your headspace when you were, beginning this endeavor of this new record, or had you been writing it piecemeal over years?
I wrote most of it during quarantine.
Hmm.
I think I was having a bit of a renaissance, and I would like to preface this by saying I am aware that for a lot of people the pandemic was like a really like negative time,
Mm-hmm.
full of doubt and uncertainty. But for me, I was just like, hell yeah, I don't have to do anything right now. It's great. I taught myself how to record.
All
I had
right.
never done that before because I just never had time. I think when you don't have a lot of time, it's difficult to take risks and make art for the sake of making art, because everything is like, you have to structure your day productively. So you don't have uh, part of experimentation. Part of experimentation means that you're not guaranteed like a usable product. Like you could spend 6 hours doing something, scrap it. But I didn't
Sure.
even have that time to give because I was so go 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 go. But then during quarantine, I started like just trying to record stuff for fun, doing a little bit of collabing here and there, just teaching myself how to track a basic demo. And so this was the first record where I got to track all the songs myself, start to finish, with
Oh,
all the parts, all the layers, all of the like even bass ideas. I tracked it and just could show the band like, this is what the song sounds like, so please write, like, write drums to this, or
yeah.
please follow this bass line, keep that in mind, that this is the basic chord progression that I would
Yeah.
like. And that changed everything for me. And a lot of these songs actually were inspired by pedal demos.
Oh, really?
Firebird is inspired by a chorus tone. Coronal is inspired by a fuzz like a fuzz reverb pedal. What else? Bronco inspired by the DD3. I was trying to showcase like how cool that stutter thing is, so I just wrote a riff to show that, and then
Oh,
all of
cool.
these songs I was like, I just want to turn them into full songs.
That's great. And then you said you went into this. So you tracked you tracked the tunes yourself without the drums. It sounds like, and then you
Mm.
went in and recorded with John Button. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I we kind of worked long distance. Like
Okay.
I'd send him a song and I'd send him kind of what I hear loosely for it, and then he'd play it and then add his own touch to it, or he brought his own ideas, and then we just did track by track, and it was so cool seeing how quickly he could work. I think, yeah, I don't know. He's a pro. That's all I'm gonna
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. So that was entirely remote, the recording.
Yeah, we never got
Oh,
to meet up.
you looking forward to getting into a studio the next record?
Um, I would. I've learned a lot from this experience. It would be really fun to now that I feel like I have more experience under my belt recording wise. Ideally, I have my thoughts about studio time and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's amazing how everyone has the power to record um, at home. Like technology right now is crazy, and I think you can get really good sounding
Yeah.
things from your home, and you don't have to necessarily shell out like 50 grand or something to
Sure.
go to a nice space. You can. I still
Mm-hmm.
think I would like that to be part of the process, but I would like to do a lot of the pre-pro and maybe like guitar tracking myself, because I think a lot of recording engineers, they don't even want to track, they don't like tracking, it's more about the production side. So
I yeah, I
yeah,
agree with you. And
absolutely. I don't want to waste someone's time. I don't want to sit there and have someone be weird because I'm taking a million hours to try to figure out how I want to play something. That's something I can do from the safety and comfort of my own
yeah,
home. And then I can just bring my finished ideas and be like, here you go. Like, let's do
yeah,
some panning. Let's do some double tracking. Let's see what we can do with this.
that's such a great positive view on that. Sometimes I get cranky about that, but
What's your view? How do you
well,
feel
I
about
just
it?
think that people are more interested in production rather than tracking, and
Yes.
they're more interested in their production and making a mark with your music as a vehicle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it's not all like that, but there's a lot more people that do it that way, and people find success in it. But I don't think in the big picture it's the best way to go. I don't
I
think it's
think
the best way to collaborate.
I feel like perhaps I have no, I'm in no position to speak on this because whoa, loud
All
plane,
right, San Jose Airport
sick. Uh,
or SFO. I don't know how close you
it
are.
sounds like a hmm, I don't know how present that is in the recording.
I
Can you
can
still
hear it.
hear? Okay.
No, yeah, yeah. It's okay though. It's fine.
Okay. I don't know if I'm the most like well versed person to speak on this, but how I do feel is I think it's the job of the engineer, whatever, the person that is producing, to bring out like the best possible version of the music,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe not to like put their ideology or their whatever personal agenda onto a thing. Like I
Yeah.
think there's something really nice about uh okay, like I think this way when I collaborate with someone, like when someone gives me a part, I'm not just going to try to superimpose my style onto it and be like, there, it works.
Yeah.
I'm like going to listen to it, and then I'm like, how can I like use my strengths to make this thing come to life and to like enhance it and not step all over it. It's not about me. It's not about like what I think is best. It's about like what's going to make this music like be exist in its best possible form. So I would hope that like that's kind of the attitude that people have. But I do agree with you that sometimes it does become about like I'm just gonna like I just want to make my mark on this
Exactly.
music.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Again, beautifully put.
thanks.
Eloquent.
Thank you.
Um, well, one more thing I'd like to talk about, which I really like, is the art on all these records. Do you have a hand in that, or is it your art, or do you direct the art?
Yeah, I went to art school, and
Uh-huh.
I'm glad that I, wasn't completely squandered degree. I still get to do all the merch design and all the album art. Um, yeah, it's really fun having control over that, because on one hand, yeah, it's more work for me, but then I don't have to translate what I want the music to, how I want to represent the music to someone else. Like
Mm-hmm.
the music lives within me, so I kind of have a feeling of like what I want to do to visually represent it. And I think these days especially, people kind of consume music with their eyes. Um,
Yeah.
and so your overall band aesthetic, or like your over, like when you go buy a record, what you first see is the album art, and that catches your eye. And then you're like, okay, what's this? And then you look at the back, and you're like, oh, I'm into it. I'll give it a go. So it is kind of exciting to be like, what do I want to tell people about this music before they even hear a note?
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, I just really, I hope it's going to be released on vinyl. I'm not quite sure, but I hope it is, because it's
Oh
really,
yes.
okay, great. Well, so the record comes out on April 7th on Triple Crown Records.
Hmm.
And you said you are beginning a tour. Is it a national tour?
Yeah, just US Canada dates.
Mm-hmm.
And I think after this one, we're just gonna lay low for a bit, because I gotta write. I
Yeah.
don't know how people juggle writing with touring all the time. Like I get so depressed when I'm unable to like make new things, and I'm just like playing music. Like I don't know, just like I think I'm more of a writer. I think
Right.
I'm like not like the biggest fan of standing in front of huge crowds. I get nervous
Okay.
still, but yeah.
How do you feel about touring in general? Is it taxing?
It is, but I think with the right people, it is. It can be like being somewhere with your family, which is
Mm-hmm.
ultimately the vibe I'm going for on the road. I think it was a big reason why I needed to change my lineup too, because I just felt like not even safe on the road.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, I think with the right people, we uplift each other and we support each other in that way. And the way it is strange as I get older. I'm not like the oldest person in the world, but I do feel like I can't pull all-nighters as easily.
Uh-huh.
I need to be aware of what I'm eating, because stuff like does affect me adversely. And I just don't want to. I'm not as social on the road. I'm at work. Like I would love to hang out till 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Doing stuff with people that I never get to see. Because I'm never. When am I going to be in Wyoming? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but ultimately I'm at work, and I got to protect myself, and I want to keep doing this for as long as I can. So we're not drinkers. We don't really smoke. Like I jokingly call us the least rock and roll band in rock and roll,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like we don't have beer on our rider even. So it's like, yeah, I think we're all kind of just like trying to take care of ourselves, because we ultimately love playing music. And we want to be able to do it for as long as we can and not feel like garbage.
Right. Yeah. It's tough to do.
Yeah.
What you say you're not, you're the least rock and roll band. What is the most rock and roll thing you think you have done collectively or as a band or?
Hmm. One of the most rock and roll moments I can remember was, I think, just like being like I'm such a little preparer. I'm very type A personality, so I'm like, I need to know like what I'm dealing with, like what the requirements are, like blah blah blah.
Mm.
I think there's one day where we were in Reading, and they were like encore, and we're like, we don't have anything prepared. And then uh I was just gonna be like, no, we're not gonna give you that. But then it was so loud, and they were so insistent on it. I never felt
Yeah.
that response before. I was like, okay. At the time, we never played Firebird together before. Like it was
Oh.
like I just showed them it, and we had like no cohesion yet, and I didn't even know how to play it perfectly. But
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, do we just jam out that song, and whatever happens happens? Like they don't even know it yet.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and so we did that, and it did train wreck in the middle, but we found each other and we ended together. So that was kind of rock and roll.
Oh, that's great. And
Yeah,
now if you have to do that again, you can.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think that when I think a large part of the reason why I've strayed away from like being really passionate about live performance is because I do come from a classical world of like rehearsal, preparation, and like you got to deliver this music perfectly and you can't make a mistake. Like piano competition days, that's what they were grading me on. And I think
Yeah.
in the classical world, it is about that most of the time. But one thing that helped me learn to love uh, performing more and playing live is realizing that it's not about the perfect delivery of the music that you've written. That's what recording is for. Recording is to, again, make the ideal version of this thing that exists in your head.
Yeah.
And you can do all kinds of things that you can't do live. Why
Exactly.
not?
Yeah.
Screw it. You have to live with the recording the rest of your life. You might as well get what you want.
Exactly what you want. Yeah.
Yeah, but then live, it's not about the exact translation of that. You can get close, but it's more about a transfer of energy. And what that moment taught me was those people were stoked. It sounded like ass in the middle. Like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was not, it was hilarious. Like we were laughing because it's like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then people were like so thrilled at the end because they got to watch something happen for the first time. And it was like, so harrowing, like, ooh, what's gonna happen? Are they gonna find each other? But it felt like everyone was like celebrating that night.
Yeah.
So,
That's the beauty of live performance.
uh huh.
You know, you and I are subjective to this, but I think, and I don't like to celebrate the whole, a lot of people will say, oh, if there's a train wreck and make mistakes, the audience loves it. And it's maybe true and kind of, I mean, it's a new thing,
Yeah.
but for the musicians, I think I found a nice spot where it's like, yeah, I didn't want to mess up. But if you do, I'm okay. I always just feel bad for the singers. The singers are standing there and everyone's looking at them. But
Oh, yeah.
um,
It's about the recovery, it's about
yeah,
what you
yeah.
do with it.
But I mean, ultimately, it's always a new novel experience for people. So that's what they came for.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope to see you up here in Seattle. I think you're playing at Numos. So if I can make it out, I am there. If I'm in town, I can't remember if I am, but I'm gonna come out if I'm there.
Yeah. Good luck on your tour.
Thank you.
I hope,
Yeah.
everything
Thank you.
goes as smoothly.
Yeah. All right. Well, take care, and again, congrats on this record. It's great. I'm gonna continue to listen to it
Thank you so
on my
much.
travels. All right. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye bye.